Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to tell you a story, so let's get into it. Back in the 1890s, I think it was like mid, like 1894, I think, is when this guy came up with this idea. Some guy named Edwin Goodwin came up with a idea for how to square the circle, so to speak, and essentially redefine mathematics to make it easier to calculate, which, that would be convenient, but it would cause everything to be wrong, so probably less convenient in the long run. Well, anyway, he thought this idea was so good that he petitioned one of his local state representatives to actually introduce a bill that would make his false math legally true. And because of some shenanigans, it almost got through the legislature in Indiana. And luckily, there was a pretty clever and determined professor who went out and actually talked to the senators and stuff, and they're like, this is complete junk. Please just throw it out. And luckily, that's what happened. I read something that said that one of the senators almost voted for it, but then said that they realized they couldn't legislate mathematical truth. Anyway, let's talk about the UK Supreme Court deciding that biology isn't real. That's going to be fun. Now, pretty much any time that I talk about something like scientific, I want to give you some sort of idea of my qualifications to be talking about what I'm talking about. Everyone has a right to opinion, but opinions are only as valuable as the person is informed. And so let me tell you how informed I am on this topic. I have a degree in biology, my undergrad, and then my post-secondary is a doctor of chiropractic. That meant that I spent literal years learning anatomy to a completely granular level. I spent years in a gross anatomy lab, meaning that, we work with cadavers, and I literally know what people look like inside and out, okay? So, the UK Supreme Court has decided that trans women aren't women. And that there's only two genders, two sexes, male and female. Sex and gender are the same thing, and there's only two of them. And that's just factually inaccurate. The very first thing that comes to mind here is, hey, intersex people are around. Like, there are probably at least as many intersex people as natural redheads. Do you know any natural redheads? You probably know some intersex people. The biggest problem is a lot of people who are intersex have no idea, because this is why we use the terminology assigned male and assigned female at birth, because often when people have ambiguous sexual characteristics of any sort, it will just be determined that they are male or they are female. And they may even have some sort of surgical correction to make them fit into one of those gender binaries. Now, that's something that was luckily becoming less common, because people realized that if you tried to just, arbitrarily assign a gender to an intersex person, that they may not feel much connection to that gender. And that causes a lot of problems for them, in a lot of ways, some of which are, pretty traumatic. Like, it's not a small thing, it's a big thing. My grandma worked as a nurse midwife. And she worked at Wusthof Hospital in Cocoa Beach, where a lot of people who worked at Space Center lived, like that's where my other granddaddy, other side of the family, where he worked. And my grandma was so proud of herself. She said, I delivered astronauts' babies. She delivered a lot of babies. And one thing she was always quick to say was that there were a lot more intersex babies born than anyone ever would have imagined. Just in her one career, it wasn't like an uncommon occurrence. She saw it multiple times. Being intersex is not that uncommon. And the whole, completely bulldozing over the fact that intersex people are a thing, just so that they can get to the transphobia that they're really going for. It's just kind of stunningly bigoted. It's just completely erasing the identity and existence of millions of people, just casually, because you want to be transphobic. This is so weird to me, okay? I get it, you don't like the idea of people who are non-binary or are trans, but that doesn't mean that there's only men and women, and there's only ever been men and women, and that's never, ever been true. And it's kind of, like I said, it's just so frustrating. Can you imagine how hard it is already to be intersex in this society that basically is going to completely ignore your existence on a regular basis, and then to have it just straight up shoved in your face as a means to be bigoted towards a completely unrelated group of people? Anyway. When Joanne Rowling came for me a little while ago and was bigoted towards asexuals by pretending like there is no bigotry towards asexuals, a self-evident lie. She literally, by her actions, insulting asexual people the way she did, proved her own statement incorrect in making it. It's just mind-blowing efficiency and bigotry, I guess. I am both going to show bigotry and speak bigotry all at once, because I'm really devoted to hating on people, I guess. I don't know. So she's used her Harry Potter millions and gotten a judicial court to deny reality to make her happy. Wow. Okay. By the way, if you're still supporting Harry Potter stuff, if you're still buying things, I don't know. I used to say I don't judge. It's getting to the point where I kind of have to, because whatever money you're giving her is directly being used to like cause there to be laws that'll like mess up the lives of a bunch of really vulnerable and really cool people. And wow, just wow. I can't imagine loving any franchise enough to think, oh, I don't mind giving money to this person who takes the support that I'm giving them, the money that I'm giving them, and has explicitly said the money that I get from people who buy my things right now tells me they agree with me and they support me and they want me to do what I'm doing. If you're going to the new theme park and you spend money and you spend time in the little Joanne land, you're giving money to oppressing people. And I don't know. I don't know. Like when it gets to be this explicit, where she's literally going in and influencing the Supreme Court in the UK to define intersex and trans people out of existence because she doesn't want them to exist, even though we know they exist. They're all around us. We see them. There's scientific and historical evidence that this is no new thing, no trendy thing. It's just something that we tried to pretend didn't exist for a while in society, and we failed because it does exist. You can't make things work the way you want them to work just because that's how you want to. It just doesn't work like that. And when she came for me, a lot of my favorite trans creators were some of the first people I heard speaking out about it. And they're not A-spec themselves, to be clear. These are people who, whenever they discuss A-spec anything, it's very removed. It's very like, oh, okay, that's related to asexuals. Neat. I didn't know that. Nice. Moving on. You know, it's very much an outsider, but a supportive outsider perspective. And I have a few trans creators that I follow that have that sort of understanding of the asexual community, and they were some of the first to speak up. And it made me think, you know what? They got our back. I've got theirs. I mean, I already did, but I definitely felt it even more in that moment, you know, when it still fucking hurts. Isn't that strange? It's been years for me since I realized that that woman was a bigot and that she had no love or respect for the queer community, no matter what her posturing might say. Her platform is so big. I got a comment on my video that I made about her being asexual phobic or anti-asexual, or however you want to put it, aphobic. My video, I had this comment from someone who said that their family members don't believe them, don't understand that, their asexuality is a real thing. And, not some sort of like, I don't know, look at me, I'm special, blah, 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 blah thing. It's just, it's part of who you are. We're just, we're our own way of being. We're just not heteronormative. It's just, we're not. We just couldn't be if we wanted to. We're just not. And having a woman like that come out and make fun of us validates all of those unsupportive family members who want to say that asexual people just don't exist. I mean, I guess it makes sense to me on some level that a woman who thinks that she has the right to legislate trans and intersex people out of existence has the right to just decide that asexual people don't exist, despite obviously knowing nothing about us. Rich person disease is really awful. Look what it does to a person's brain. Turns them into a twisted monster. It's sad. I don't know. Probably was always a twisted monster, just didn't know. But still. I have a lot of trans friends. A surprising number of trans friends from all parts of my life, like a former neighbor, people I worked with, went to school with, people I'm like super close to, people that I just kind of know, and everywhere in between. And for a while when I was getting to go out to the drag shows a lot, drag queen and king shows to be clear, I was, I'd add people that I saw perform on social media, and then, I'd get suggested people that they knew, and then I'd be like, oh, that's cool. And I just added like every drag performer, local drag performer that I had any sort of like vague connection to. And I've ended up with this like random assortment of really cool drag artist friends, many of whom are trans, and some of whom live in the UK. And I don't even know how that's got to feel to have your government just decide that you don't exist. I mean, that's what's happening to trans people in the United States, but it hasn't been that firmly legally established yet. I mean, it probably will. Let's hope not, but that seems like where we're going. Yeah, anyway. I think part of the problem is that the government is full of lawyers, and judges and legislatures do, to a certain extent, have to determine what is and isn't true in the legal sense. And I'm wondering if it's possible that this power that they have to determine legal reality, if they haven't generalized it to the point where they believe they can literally legislate scientific truth. The way the Indiana legislature very nearly did with mathematical truth, trying to square the circle when it's not possible. We need leaders who are a little bit better informed, obviously. I don't know much about the judicial branch that made this ridiculous ruling, but maybe they should have gone back to like basic biology in college or something. Or like, I don't know, spoke to a intersex person maybe. You know, the people, biological essentialists out there that want to turn it to XX is woman, XY is man, they would always want to have like DNA tests. And in athletics, what they would do is they would DNA test people to get their genotype. Genotype is what your DNA says, and phenotype is what your outward expression is. And what they kept finding out was a whole lot of people who thought they were cisgender were not. Like a whole lot of people who did not realize that they were intersex. There are a lot more intersex people than we'll ever know, because if it's a subtle thing and nobody ever has any reason to question it medically, then it's quite possible that somebody would never ever know. Like, I am a woman, always considered myself a woman, never been considered anything other than a woman. All of my parts are the parts of women. But it's possible if I was DNA tested that I could have XY. And I could just be, androgen and sensitive. It's possible. That's just, I don't know that for sure. That doesn't make me less of a woman, by the way. It just means that finding out what a person's genotypic sex is really doesn't tell you much about them as a person necessarily. So, that's something that it should be well understood. It's not that complicated. I mean, biology exists in spectrums, and high contrast is not like a normal thing in biology. That's how evolution works. Like over a broad sense, over many, many generations, generally, what you're going to see is that there is a broad category of different types of individuals within a group. And if one type has a benefit over the other, then there's going to be more of that type. Therefore, having different types so that the environmental pressures can sort of select for the best traits, most fit traits. That's how it works. You have to have variety. If everything is like black and white, then you can't evolve. And I would say that goes for ideas too, mimetically. Like, ideas evolve in that same way because there's different people looking at things at different ways, and they'll be able to put a different spin on it, bring a different perspective to it. Like, these are features of being human. This is not a bug. This is a feature. It would not be better if everybody was just all the same. That would be bad, okay? The reason humanity works is we as a species kind of flow over the globe and have all of these different moving parts that are going different ways and doing different things. If you're just a cube that's static and going nowhere, you can't progress. You have to be dynamic and fluid, and we are as a species. I am so sad for the trans people all over the world. You know, obviously the ones that I know are the ones that I think of first, but I think of all of them, you know, and people, you know, even like say at this point, me with my short hair and my inability to wear like a face full of makeup and a bra and all this stuff, people probably will get the impression that maybe I'm not gender conforming. You know, like I could see a scenario where I go out dressed exactly like I am right now, try to use a public bathroom, and some bigot might think that I'm a trans person and decide to harass me. I could see it happening. And that's who a lot of these like anti-trans measures hurt. Like, even if you don't care about cis or trans people, which is, you know, one thing entirely, but let's set that aside. If you don't care about trans people at all this stuff really hurts cis women. Cis women who aren't a certain body type, you know? Like, I love Jasmine Crockett. I like listening to her. She has a lot of interesting things to say. I mean, obviously, she's a politician and she was, you know, a public defender and everything. So, you know, she's beholden to forces that maybe you know, I'm never gonna see her as any politician as above reproach. But even to the level that I like her, it upsets me that she shamed Marjorie Taylor's body and called her butch built. I mean, I understand what she's going for, and obviously she was reacting to someone who had, you know, insulted her physical appearance first. But it's still upsetting to me that she was body shamed and continues to be body shamed. You want to call her bleach blonde? That's appropriate. You know, but insulting the way that her body looks is gross. And I don't care for that woman whatsoever. But I don't want to see it. Because guess what? Even if I didn't care about her, I care about other women who have that same body type as her. And having to have them see her insulted like that is upsetting to them. I know it is. Because it's upsetting to me when I see people dismissed because they look like I do. I feel like women are just so under attack, and it's weird that there's this strange female face put on this thing, you know, J.K. Rowling and Kelly J. Keane and all of their weirdo people. Because my trans friends don't deserve this. They're already under so much. I mean, just being alive in this society right now is so much, right? And then they have to constantly keep having this disrespect over and over again. You know? It's like what I was talking about in the Kanye West video I made a while ago about Ye. Like, he is always disrespecting his community. J.K. Rowling is always disrespecting her gender. And that includes both trans and cis women. And trans men, because she's a misogynist bitch. Oh gosh, all right. I could probably talk about this forever, family members. I probably ought to end that here. Casey's begging to go outside. So, let's see if I can get you a little land seal action. Oh, here he comes. Hello, Casey Bear. Hello, Casey Bear. You want to go outside? Kimmy really wants to go outside. Okay. All right. Well, family members, I'll talk to you later, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.